Howdy gang, this is The Outside. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about injuries. Pretty topical because I've got a little one at the moment and I'm trying to work my way through it. So I figured, hey, why not talk a bit more broadly about it and why I think injuries are actually really good for you. People are probably going to say, what? How can that be the case? Why would anybody want to hurt themselves? Well, nobody wants to hurt themselves, but if you do, there are some pretty cool things you can learn along the way. I think I might have to sit down to have this conversation. So for a crew like me who are in their mid-40s and taken up running, in the last, whether it be 1 year or whether it be 6 or 7 years, you're going to sustain injuries. Now that's whether you've been a runner or an athlete before, into other sports maybe, and you've turned to running as an individual pastime to maintain fitness or whatever it might be, you're going to get injured. It's just the nature of the beast. And one of the biggest challenges is getting injured, particularly when you're new to running, when you might have set yourself a target, like a race or a fun run or a half marathon, something like that. One single injury can be a massive spanner in the works and can kind of derail your whole running journey. And that's what we're trying to avoid. Now, I've got some other video content around that, so I'll leave that for another time. So everyone's injury battles are going to be a little bit different. For me, I've had a number of things happen over time. Nothing too serious, thankfully, but I think I've spoken previously about a ligament tear I've had in my knee. Well, actually, there's been a few of those. I've also had chronic issues with my lower back from an old sports injury that's sort of resurfaced, and that's like 20, 25 years old. And that keeps giving me grief, and that's what's giving me grief right now. So what I'm going to do is I've had about 5 days off. I've been to my physiotherapist. We've got a strategy in place to try and get through this so I can get back to my running so I don't lose too much. Today's my test day. I'm going to head down to the treadmill and see if I can get out a bit of a walk jog, maybe get 5Ks out, 20 to 30 minutes of time on it, and we'll see how we go. Then I'm going to go into some of the reasons why I think sustaining a couple of injuries along your journey really helps with your resilience and your understanding of what you need to do to your body to become a better runner. Well, I think we can call that a success. Got a nice little 30-minute trot out, easy pace, and absolutely no issues with the back at all. So no referred pain, no change in gait. All that stuff's all pretty cool. So I'm really happy with that. It means that I can possibly get back and maintain some running while we look after this lower back issue. So again, my focus is all about trying to nip these things in the bud as early as possible. The reality is you're going to hurt yourself from time to time, and that's totally cool as long as you're patient in the recovery and you treat it correctly. If you don't do those things, things can just compound and you don't achieve the goals that you really want out of running, which is to have fun and be outside and stay fit and healthy. I'm going to head for home now, get clean and fresh, and then we'll sit down and we'll talk about some of the challenges of being injured, but also some of the cool learnings that come from it and things that really safeguard you for the future and help make you bulletproof as a runner or as a trail athlete or whatever it might be that you're aiming at. Now, the first takeaway message about injuries is don't be hard on yourself and don't beat yourself up. Nobody injures themselves on purpose. It's very easy to get down in the dumps when you do hurt yourself, but cut yourself some slack. It's not your fault. When I tore the ligament in my knee last year, I was feeling pretty low. It was right before an overseas holiday, and I did have some pretty significant plans for running later in the year. Can you get back in your bed, please, Pooh? Whilst my intention is to run for life, I still do have short-term targets and short-term goals as well. I just have to be realistic about them because injuries do pop up and they do kill some of these plans, unfortunately. The thing about running is you don't know it all when you start, so you learn as you go, and injuries form a really big and important part of that learning in my view. You sometimes learn from your successes, but you'll always learn from those challenges or what some people might call failures. because you know what not to do next time, or what might enhance your running capability as you go forward with your running. As I've said before, I'm not an expert in this field, but I milk the professionals around me for as much as I possibly can so I can learn everything I need to know to make myself a better runner. And I'm still learning, there's no doubt about that. But what I've learned over the past few years might just help some of you with your injury battles or your running in general. So let's work through some of the key takeaways you get from any particular running related injury. The first for me is all about anatomy and physiology. Whether it's a soft tissue injury, a ligament injury, tendon, or something to do with a bone, you learn so much about that particular part of the body and what you've actually injured. What this pretty much does is turn you into something of an encyclopedia about that particular part of your limb or whatever it might be. You start to understand the function of that muscle group, and you start to see how that directly impacts your running, or how something might lead to an injury or damage that particular area. Personally, as I've injured different parts of my body, usually related to my legs, I'm learning so much about those muscle groups and what I need to do to maintain them, or what I could do differently to make them stronger or make me more resilient. A second key point is finding really good practitioners around you who can help you out. When I talk about practitioners, I think about things like physiotherapists, osteopaths, and good remedial massage therapists. But it doesn't just stop there. What I'm also talking about is running groups, or like-minded people who are also into running, who you can also learn a great deal from their experiences with injury or their success as being long-term runners. Possibly one of the most important things that I've learned is the importance of strength training. Running is such a high-impact falling sport. When I say falling, I mean you're essentially falling on one leg at a time. It puts a massive load on our body. So we've got to make sure that we're actually strong enough to cope with that load, particularly in endurance running, because you're running logically for much longer than you would be if you're running, short-term events, fun runs or races. Developing a good strength training program is absolutely critical, and it needs to start with the basic things first and move up to greater, higher level strength training as you progress as a runner. And that's the cool thing about this endurance running journey, is that it is a build, and you have to understand that you build over time. What goes hand in hand with strength training is pre-running activation and also recovery. Now I'll group all those things together, and that's a lot of content I'll talk about in other videos, so I won't go right into it here. The short message with that stuff is, the more you want to run into your middle and older age, the more work you do have to do around the running so you can continue to enjoy that. When I say that, I talk about strength training, recovery, and the pre-run activation, or the little bits and pieces that you need to do to enable you to keep running. If your ambition is to be an endurance or long distance runner, that slow build and that slow development breeds patience. And that's another critical element of injury. Having injuries builds that patience, because you have to climb back out of that injury hole that you get yourself into. You can't rush things, and you have to realize that some of your goals might not be attainable in the period that you thought they might be. So for example, if you had a short-term desire to run a particular race or a particular fun run, and an injury gets in the way and you can't do that, that helps you learn that patience and that long-term build of strength, load, and everything else you need to be able to run for a long period, over a long period. So for me, learning to have more patience as a result of being injured several times and having to rebuild really, really slowly over a long period of time, that's been a massive benefit of experiencing some of these injuries. Another great trait that does go hand in hand with patience is resilience. There's no doubt that suffering injuries when running helps to build that resilience, because you understand that if you want to get back, you do have to do some hard work. Some of the greatest runners in the world have had multiple massive setbacks over time, from 12 months to 24-month layoffs, and then you see them winning major marathons, or you see them on the podium at huge ultra trail events like UTMB and the Western States. And it's absolutely inspiring to see people with that level of patience and resilience to rebuild themselves over time. And we're no different. Anybody who's taken up running, even late in their life, can demonstrate that resilience by working through things patiently and building up to your maximum potential. The offshoot for building resilience through recovering from injury and endurance running is that it flows onto every aspect of your life. All of a sudden you start looking at life challenges, whether it be work, home, or anywhere else, completely differently. You have that resilience and that strength to actually see things through rather than expecting to do things quickly. I see patience and resilience as absolutely key elements in recovering from injury and getting on with things. And endurance running really does build that, and it flows onto every part of your life. So there you have it. 5 key takeaways from injuries associated with running. Nobody intends to get injured, but when it happens, there are great benefits in recovering from that injury and doing it right. Not only does it make your endurance running even better, it actually flows onto other aspects of your life and makes you a more rounded, more resilient, and more patient person. Hopefully you have some really good takeaways from this and it helps you build your endurance running journey or helps you focus on recovering from injuries that you might have. Once again, if you're enjoying the content, hit the thumbs up, like any of these videos that you're watching, and please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me build this channel and provide more and more content all the time. Soon I'll be posting some more videos from some of our training in Europe, so don't forget to check those out as soon as they drop. I hope your journey out there is going well, and as always, keep running, stay happy, and I'll see you on the outside.